And like you said, a lot of things stem from childhood. Do you know what I mean? Not being able to say things, shrinking yourself for the comfort of others, not being able to set boundaries and therefore not being able to communicate your boundaries. And as I lived on my own since the age of 22, I realized that I could say a lot of things that I couldn't say growing up for fear of disrespect or making the elders cross. You know, like I'm always trying to think about how I can care about someone else's feelings even though I don't want to because it wasn't warranted.
Hello, House Kakis. I'm Durga and welcome back to Open House, where every conversation opens a new perspective. Now, whether you're listening to this on the go or you're winding down at the end of the day, thank you for tuning in. Now, let's get into today's episode. If you've ever been scrolling through Instagram and suddenly stopped and felt something different, honest, and genuine, you've probably come across our guest for today. She's known as Cait of all trades on Instagram, a voice artist, host, actress, and storyteller whose content doesn't just look beautiful, but you feel something when you look at it. Behind her calming reels and voice is someone unafraid to discuss the hard topics, being a woman online, navigating a curated world, and finding strength in vulnerability. Cait, welcome to Open House.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for doing this. So let's start with who Cait was before becoming an actress and your journey.
I'm someone's daughter. I'm the eldest sister of two brothers. I come from a musician family. And so those are the labels I ascribed to myself before I decided I was going to pursue my craft, which is to become a creative or an artist, whatever that might entail. Right. So yeah, that's who Cait was before.
What drew you to the work that you do currently? Like, you know, the reason I ask that is because a lot of what we do currently or may not do currently is sort of shaped by who we are as children or teenagers or young adults, right? So I'm just trying to understand, you know, how was it like for you growing up?
I grew up in a family of musicians. So my dad's a musician, my mom's a nurse, you know. So life skills I think came from like a mixture of both. A lot of the perspectives came from my dad because it's not easy to be a musician. And with my dad's curated quotes growing up, I've just always had to use one coping mechanism after another to shift perspective. You know, everybody has things you don't know about, right? Goes through things that you don't know about. And for me, I've just chosen to use a lot of my dad's like perspectives to get through life and navigating life as a creative in a world that tells you what you should be doing instead.
So what drew you? I mean, you're from musical theatre, you mentioned, you know. Is that like a natural transition into the work that you do? Or, you know, what drew you to the work that you do?
When you say the work that you do, but I mean, when
voice
you say the work that I do,
host, actress, storyteller.
So basically I think there's like a common thread between all of these jobs. And I know people see it as a whole bunch of different talents, but I see it as just an offshoot of one thing and another thing in my musical theatre training. In musical theatre school, you're trained in equal measure in acting, dancing, and singing. And when I left and I auditioned for Disney and I got in, that was what I was doing. But then I saw someone pushed into admin position after 13 years and she was only 31. At this point, I was 24. And I looked at her and I looked up to her and I just thought, oh my gosh, the reason they gave her was because she was too old to be a princess. Imagine me doing that for all my life only to be told that I am no longer viable because I'm old. But I think in that moment, I had to decide if I was going to take another contract or if I was just going to go so I can build what I need to build before being made redundant for being old and only having one skill. So then when I left, I came back to Singapore. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was managing a French performer that I'd met at Disney at this point. And he's an incredible circus performer. And so we did all the business things to start business, you know, to reach out, to do the street shows, to get seen, to negotiate rates for all these corporate events. And during the first month that we started this venture together, we booked like 10 shows and it was incredible. We didn't realize the steps that had to be done. We just did it, right? So I became a talent manager. So I got to see the business side of all of these things. And then after that, I think the client realized that I could speak French. And when I did, I didn't have very much of an accent. And because I also spoke well and carried myself well, she offered me a job as a host at their next gala event. And this was a chamber of commerce. So it was huge, you know. At first, I told her, like, oh, I can't do it. And then she told me how much I was going to get paid. And I was like,
yes, I'll do it.
I will learn how to do it.
Yes.
You know, and that was the start of being a host. And as I did it, I realized it was musical theater light. You know, it's not what people think. You just look good and speak well. You also have to deliver the lines in a way that doesn't bore the audience. You have to manage the audience's interaction. You have to tell the story of the event from start to finish. So the thread between musical theater and this job of MC hosting is storytelling. And I do it with my voice.
So how do you define that relationship with your voice? Because we don't actually think of our voice as a tool that we can use to share, to make changes, as something powerful. How would you define that relationship, you know, with your voice?
I think I didn't realize that it was a thing. I didn't realize it was anything special, or there was anything special about the experiences I've accumulated working internationally for such a long time and the sound of my voice, because it is just my voice, you know? And like you said, a lot of things stem from childhood. Do you know what I mean? Not being able to say things, shrinking yourself for the comfort of others, not being able to set boundaries and therefore not being able to communicate your boundaries. And as I lived on my own since the age of 22, I realized that I could say a lot of things that I couldn't say growing up for fear of disrespect or making the elders cross or upset. You know, like I'm always trying to think about how I can care about someone else's feelings, even though
You really don't want to.
I don't want to, because it wasn't warranted.
Right.
So now that I have the audacity, or rather I've developed the audacity to use my voice in a way that sort of speaks to my younger self, I wonder how many other people could not speak up and who need this voice to feel like they can say no.
Right.
And then that shapes my purpose on social media. And still, I have imposter syndrome about it. Like, why would they listen to you? Why do they have to listen to you? You know, they don't. But if you want to, it's there.
Why do you think people, maybe our generation or in general, why do you think we have such a hard time saying no?
I'm just sifting through all the things that I learned in therapy, you know, and one of them is like people pleasing. But people pleasing is such like a top line thing to say without understanding where it stems, right? And that's why you have to go to therapy, because then you're able to articulate, you're naming the thing that you're doing and learn more about why it happens, right? And you know, our parents were very giving, right? That generation was so loving, so giving that they would give you the literal clothes off their back.
Yep.
At least my parents were like that.
Yes.
And so you sort of emulate what your parents
Right.
taught you or did for people. So anything that is not that feels like you're not doing
The right thing.
the right thing, you know?
At what point did you realize that, hey, I need to see a therapist? You know, how did you take that first step?
I think when I was living in Hong Kong working at Disney, like I noticed a pattern that kept repeating itself in my life, and I just could not break through that. I read up on philosophy, and you know, we do that, right?
Yes.
Like, and full disclosure, I
Right.
love philosophy. I love perspectives, you know, but I just couldn't understand like why I kept repeating this pattern. And so I thought I'd go to a therapist because it was normalized around me at work. It was not a stigma as it was in Singapore growing up, that you have to be crazy to need a therapist. And I think it really changed my perspective, because the whole time the therapist was just asking me questions to find out what happened in my life that led me to this point. And the moment that I arrived at that was when it cleared up for me in my brain. I'm like, oh, so I'm not like that just because I'm like that. It stemmed from this particular situation. And now I can own that. I am not this person, right? And I think that's so powerful, because after that moment, I realized that a therapist is not there because you are sick in the head.
Right.
A therapist is there because everybody else is sick in the head and don't recognize that they're healing, and they put that on you. And then you are simply reacting to the hurt that you receive. And you can't get through that without a perspective that is neutral enough for you to get through that.
Right. I mean, I'm guilty of that as well. I think initially I thought about therapy, or when you think of, going to therapists, you think like, am I a weak person? Am I weak to be seeking help? But what would you say to those who feel that way, or vulnerable? Like, what's going to happen to me? Are they going to think I'm crazy?
Right. As a person that loves perspectives, we ascribe positive or negative connotations to certain words. And we should destroy that, because why is being weak bad? Because we can't do everything ourselves, and we need to learn to lean on people for the times that we cannot lean on ourselves, or we cannot depend on ourselves because we are not feeling at the optimum position to deal with the situation, right? And vulnerability is beautiful. If you want to know about vulnerability, all you need to do is watch my videos. I tried to be someone else because someone told me one time that this is what you need to do to show up on Instagram. I hated it. Being vulnerable isn't being weak. To show up vulnerable, think about how many people are going to judge you when you're vulnerable, when you're showing up as your authentic, vulnerable self in that moment where you are vulnerable. It takes so much strength to show up not perfect. It's not to say that people who only show up perfect are weak, but it's something to think about. Like, ask the question, why? Why do you feel like you need to show up perfect all the time, right? Because that's what the therapist asks you a lot. Why? Why do you think you feel like this when this is being said to you? Why do you think you react like this? Where do you think this comes from? If you don't want to pay for a therapist, you can ask yourself these questions. So, yeah, because it's so important to ask yourself why.
Right. Did you feel that you had to be perfect all the time? Like, did you have that ideal that you're a perfectionist and you had to do that all the time?
Yes. And I think it stems from my craft, right? The first instrument I ever played when I was 3, because my dad's a musician. He's a string instrumentalist. I have a brother who's a string instrumentalist and a brother who's a percussionist. I chose keys, piano. It was my place of solace. I would go and practice for like 4 hours. My mom couldn't threaten me with anything else, but if you don't do your homework, you can't play the piano. So that was the thing that would get me to finish my homework begrudgingly so I can play the piano. And I'd be there for hours and hours until dinner time, right? So when you play the piano, you tend to want to hit all the right notes. You tend to want to play this until you're off book. You practice until it's perfect, So it definitely stems from wanting to be super good at my craft. And then you just start to think that that is the only way to be accepted. But I think we need to learn to separate work from who we are. And I spent a lot of my 20s doing that, just to pull away from the public persona who is Cait on screen versus who Cait is behind the scenes, right?
Yes. So as a woman, and as a content creator, right? What are some of the challenges you face? Like, say, as a host, do you get...
Oh, yeah. Arm around my waist, slide down to my butt. Can I say that?
Yes.
Yeah. And I just have to smile because I'm there for a job and take that hand and push it away.
Right.
And just do that for the photo, like angle myself away. Like all these little coping mechanisms, right? That I feel make us women the most qualified to talk about how unfair it has been. Because we experience it.
Right.
It doesn't matter if the guy thinks, what? It's just that only what?
Yeah.
No, but it made me feel uncomfortable, but you didn't care that I felt uncomfortable. That's the problem.
And what have you sort of like put up with, like aside to...
Oh my gosh. As a woman, I remember the best comment was, shut up and make me a sandwich. And I could have gotten offended, but like I knew from all those years of therapy that he is an unhealed person. And I actually feel bad for them because I know they're just projecting their insecurities, right? So I thought I'd come up with like a funny one-liner or like a just funny comeback lah. And so I typed, okay, what kind of sandwich do you want? And the amount of likes that I got on that was like hilarious. And it was
Right.
also affirming, right? When you get support in the right direction because you've done the right thing instead of insulting him back, you know, you made it funny
Right.
for people to read. Like, so from then on, it actually made me realize actually I can tackle these things with humor, you know, or something that makes them think.
Right.
Realize how stupid it sounds when you say it.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Now, I saw the reel where someone, I hope it's okay to ask, about the airport comment someone had, right?
Because it didn't occur to me that he was making a comment about my body, right?
Just that
And then when I
happen very often?
realized, well, I think growing up, you know, being well endowed is,
Seen as sex.
yeah, or like it's seen as attractive, you know, and when your body doesn't fit the societal expectation of what attractive is, and people decide that they are allowed to tell you that, you grow up thinking that you are less than. But then I'm past growing up, man. Like, I'm not even afraid to tell you how old I am. What the hell were you thinking? And so I made a retort lah. Because other people, you know, like for me, it was like my niece is on social media. If she decides to take this path and these types of people get away with it, no, here's the tool on how to respond to that. I don't know whether it worked, but like, I mean, I think it was so important for me to say it because there are a lot of people that still don't have the tools to respond to someone who's
It just, I think sometimes like when people say these comments to you about your
appearance.
you're just stunned into
Because you would never say this to someone else.
because we are brought up to be nice.
But also, like, I think it's beyond that now. Maybe when I was young, I'm not going to say I'm perfect. Maybe I might have said that when I was a kid, right? Trying to fit in and everything. But like now, I feel like the Gen Zs don't even care. We've moved on from insulting or making comments on people's physical appearance. It's almost like you're giving away your generation just by saying that.
Yes.
Or like, I mean, if you're not from that generation, then like, I'm sorry for you because the rest of your generation don't do that anymore.
Yes.
Like, why didn't you move along with us? Why did you
Right.
stay right there? And how has that helped you? Which is why I said, are you okay?
Yep.
You think I choose to have
have
small
small-
boobs? And it's not that small boobs or big boobs are big, good or bad, you know? It's like, you think I choose anything I was born with?
Yeah.
And then, here's the thing. First of all, I didn't choose to look the way I do.
Yeah.
Second of all, if I change the way I look, it's also bad. Fake boobs.
Yeah.
Her nose is fake. Her eyes are fake. Give me a freaking break. At what point can I choose what I want for myself and not have
Exactly.
society judge me for it? Tell me that. And that's the thing with discrimination,
Yeah.
right? Like, we are all different. We all have things that people have pointed out as a negative thing. Why would you do the same to other people,
Exactly.
knowing how it feels? Is the real question I have. It's the cognitive dissonance that I wonder about every single day when I see comments that are negative. I'm very lucky. They understand what I stand for now, and a lot of people are very supportive. But there's always this one or two that are just discovering me. And because I talk a lot, they're like, shut up, woman. You talk so much for what? Right?
Oh.
I'm like, number one, ADHD. Number two, I research a lot and I want to share. Is that okay with you? Or do I have to ask permission first? Then I share on my own platform.
Yeah.
Or maybe you just block me, you know?
Yeah,
How
just
about
do
that?
watch it,
Options,
right?
options, you know?
It's
You can
like-
swipe, but you
Yeah.
chose to add to my engagement. So thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Now, as a content creator, actress, voice artist, host, you know, have all of these roles, right? Because each of the areas that, you know, we work on and we do, you know, it kind of, for me at least, it helps me discover different parts of myself. And I'm like, I didn't know that about myself. Has that happened for you? And what parts have you discovered over the years?
I feel like it's life. You know, you just keep discovering new things about yourself no matter what you do. And the more different from what you did previously, the more the experience is going to impact on your life because you're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that I would react like this in this situation because I've never experienced this situation. You know, and I think one of the things that I really learned through doing different things all the time is that I can keep doing different things all the time because I'm a high agility learner. Was I always a high agility learner? I don't know. But in this very fast changing, ever changing climate that is whatever we are experiencing in this world right now, the only constant is change.
Yep.
You know, so why wouldn't we prop ourselves up for the future by embracing spontaneity a little bit? You know, knowing
learning.
that it doesn't matter where the winds blow, you'll go according to what that is. Like, it's like working within a brief. We all have briefs we work within. This is life's brief.
Right.
And why would we stick to just one thing in a world that keeps changing?
And where we can keep learning.
We can keep learning. It just adds to your character. It just adds to your wheelhouse of knowledge. And that's really my drive and why I'm so curious about everything, everyone, finding similarities, because a lot of things can be different. But what if we can find the similarities between people? Then we can connect.
Yes.
And I can learn about you, see a different perspective, and add that to my understanding of the world as a whole. This is really what drives me.
Right. And that's what this podcast is about. You know, I
Yeah.
think, we wanted to bring different perspectives, like the perspective that you have, so that people can learn at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Now, sort of, talking about that, right? What drives you, right? But also, what is a misconception that you feel that people often have about you?
Oh, that I was a creator first.
You're not. You're actually
Let
not.
this be known right now. I am an actor first. Everything else is me expanding my skills of storytelling, narratives, and expanding my skills of acting, applying it into different avenues, just so I can make money to continue auditioning to be an actor, so I don't have to give up my first love.
Right. Leaning into that, what's the weirdest gig that you've ever received?
Which
as
industry?
a voice artist.
Voice.
As a voice artist.
Weirdest. Oh, it has to be the Ubisoft one. I played the lead character. So I was the guide voice for Skull and Bones.
Right.
So basically the player is going to play and then they interact with this character called 𝙒𝙚𝙚𝙚𝙚𝙚. And she looks like basically an Indonesian pirate, but she has a Singaporean voice. And finding a voice was so hard. It was so hard because, the different sociolects of English, of Singaporean English, right? Acrolect, mesolect, and basilect. Basilect being super Singlish, acrolect being Lee Kuan Yew. Acrolect doesn't deviate from standard British English in terms of sentence structure, but it has our accent.
Okay.
So like basically how we're speaking right now,
Right.
it's acrolectal. Mesolect is more like,
Singlish.
a little bit, but still can pass like that.
Like-
But Singlish is, !walao! I tell you, So that's basilect, okay?
Right.
And it's the flavor. It's how much salt you want to add into
to
our
it,
language. But where this sits is they expected basilectal tone with acrolectal sentence structure. So it sounds like a child at oral exam trying to read perfect sentence
sense it
structures
while-
in Singlish. Today I went to the park.
remember
And
that. Oh
you know
my
what I mean? Like, today I went to the park. It's Singaporean still, but if you said it in a British accent, it would still apply. Today I went to the park.
I'm laughing because I think many of us were those kids.
No, but that's why I
during
explained this, because like people don't understand how hard it actually is. If you take something that you're like, I want to create this world, right? Yes, great. We should always explore, because
Yeah.
exploration becomes innovation, right? The problem with this thing was that maybe I just couldn't execute what they wanted. Acrolect with a basilectal tonal quality. You know?
Right. Did you finish the job?
No, it's
Yeah,
still ongoing.
it's
They're
ongoing.
still they're still contacting my manager to continue this project.
Right.
But like now they want a mesolectal, acrolectal mix rather than the thing, But we've already filmed so much. We've already recorded, so much of her voice
Right.
that is now my crowning glory in voiceover. But I think what I want people to know is that it's not always something that we can choose.
Right.
You know,
because
like
it's a brief. It's a client brief.
Your job is to do what the client asks.
So clearly you have this passion for language, right?
Love
you
it.
know, yes. So what role do you think language plays, right, in how it shapes us as people?
We find our tribe, right? We find our tribe based upon the language that we choose to use. It's a matter of understanding your strengths rather than, being you can try to learn another language, but your primary mode of communication comes from the language you are strongest at. And probably the rest of your career also comes from the language you are strongest at, right? So that's what shapes us, I suppose, career-wise.
Right.
I will not speak like this to my parents.
Why so?
Because we talk like that lah.
Okay. Right,
We talk
right.
alien.
Yes,
but
alien,
it's not that they're alien, but it's more like the
code switch. You
the
switch.
colloquial,
Yeah.
I mean, when you think code switch into
Yeah.
Singlish, I think that because of
Yes.
the generation we grew up in, we make crude jokes because we're from Hokkien background. That is a facet of that. Think about the words that we say, like, "Walao eh." It doesn't sound tactful or like soft at all.
But it's become a Singaporean thing as well.
Yes. Your background depicts the language, the voice that you speak with. But there's no harm in learning a more acrolectal way in case you need it at work. Right?
Career-wise.
It's just an additional notch on your belt that is readily available. Right? So knowledge is never something
wasteful thing.
It's never
right?
wasteful.
Language
Yeah,
is never
exactly.
wasteful.
Yeah, you said it perfectly.
Now, you recently started Pointy Rice, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right. caifan, right?
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
You're right. Pointy Rice.
Yes,
yeah.
Pointy Rice. So could you tell us a bit about
Yeah,
that
sure.
and what drove that?
Oh my gosh. Like it's probably the hardest to explain because on the one hand, it was because I missed caifan when I was traveling for work, and I travel for work a lot. The only food you cannot really find outside of Singapore. So it was always the one thing that I missed, right? So I started drawing. So that's like how it came about. But really, I think adding what I currently do on social media, I realized that through the comments and through what people are saying, I realized that we don't really have this identity that we are proud to have. Like, foreign is better, for example, for a long time. Oh, where is it from? It's made in Singapore. Must be bad. Oh, we don't have Singaporean talent. We do. All these narratives, and I kind of wanted to change that. Not through the products that I was selling, but I treated this as an identity project because we are so unique. And I thought that caifan was a good representation of that, but also it was the first product that I started. I'm going to expand to nasi padang and nasi kanda next.
Oh, I love.
But I just want us to look at one dish. And that is, the caifan stall is typically associated with Chinese, right?
Yeah, usually.
What is curry usually associated with?
Indians.
Or Malay.
Malay, yeah.
Why do we have chicken curry at a caifan store?
Right.
No, think about it, right?
Yeah.
Because it is a mix of everything that we are in one dish. And that chicken curry, not just Chinese store have, Malay store also have, Indian store also have, just slightly different because slightly more ingredients here, maybe soy sauce
Different
there.
flavor.
Exactly. But why do we all have curry? Of a different version. Through Pointy Rice, I also feel like I wanted to put some fun back into something that is sort of the anti-hero. You have laksa, Malaysia claims it. You have nasi lemak stickers, Malaysia claims it.
Yeah.
What can we claim as our own? Because caifan also Malaysia have.
True.
But nobody does the caifan, and I know why now, because it is very hard to execute something that is so customizable with so many dishes. But also at the same time, because nobody has done it, I wanted to do it.
Right.
Because why? If you don't try, you never know.
I mean, I think caifan is like the most simplest dish, right? It's very simple. And then you see like even at the stall downstairs, it's like
place
everywhere.
has one.
Yeah. And you'll definitely find it. It's everywhere. And you see all different races queuing up to buy the food. And somehow there's one language I feel that everyone understands. You just stand there and point.
Yes, and that's why it's called Pointy Rice.
Yeah. Oh, right. You just,
Oh my gosh.
I get it.
Oh my gosh. A lot of
my
people
God,
don't like. Maybe I should explain this in a video.
Right.
Yeah.
You should.
Because you point. It's Pointy Rice. And I really also want people to have a little bit more fun. We grew up with all these rules that we have to follow. I didn't follow these rules. And I'm having the time of my life. And I just want to share that.
Yes. So after caifan, right? Now, how do you now, as we come to the closing of the conversation, right? How do you hope to empower people, not just women, not just men, anyone who chances upon your Instagram like I did, right? How do you hope to empower everyone through your platform?
I think I want everyone to realize that we have a choice. Instead of blaming someone else for the things that we have to go through, we have a choice to change things for ourselves and for the people around us. And the sooner we discover our voice, not in the literal sense, but what we have to say and how that impacts positively the people around us or society in general, use it. Because if you're not going to do it, who will?
Beautiful. Thank you. Now, that's the end of my questions, but now we have some from the audience. So if you could just read out the questions.
Okay, I will.
Yeah.
What's your workout routine?
Ooh.
I typically work out every morning. I wake up at 5. I'm part of the 5 a.m. club for no reason whatsoever. My body just wakes me up at the time because my body puts me to
Same.
sleep at about 10:30. So then I wake up. So then I go and have my coffee. I only have 1 cup a day, and that's when I wake up. And then I go put on my outfit, my workout, my gym clothes, and I go to the gym. Or I do floor exercises, like Pilates, but with the floor.
So very functional.
Very functional things, because I think older me is going to be grateful for it.
Right. Because it's
Right.
something that you incorporate into your daily
Yeah,
life. Something.
like picking
Yeah,
things up,
yeah.
squats as well. But like the gym also, like
Helps.
I like the gym also because then I can just listen to like podcasts and like not listen to everyone else. So that's my workout routine every morning.
Right. So next question.
Can you do a voiceover? Next. No, I'm kidding. It says, can you do a voiceover? I'm kidding. It says,
Yes.
can you do a voiceover in Chinese? Okay. I have one line that I had to learn for someone's thing. And it is, 谢谢大家从百忙之中抽空来参加这个宴会. Anyone got suggestion for voiceover? Berhati-hati di ruang platform.
Oh, can you do the SQ one?
The SQ one?
Yeah.
Wait, I was about to do Tamil one. You want not?
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
தயவு செய்து தளமிடை இடைவெளியை கவனத்தில் கொள்ளுங்கள்.
Oh my God, it's so amazing. You actually sound like the lady on the train. It's good. It's good.
I love it.
Right. I think we've got a couple more questions. Yeah.
Next, what is your go-to fashion brand?
If you had to pick one.
Zara.
Zara.
Last one. How can I improve my English? I would say read more, watch more media. Because, I know a lot of people that watch a lot of Korean dramas and now they can annyeonghaseyo. And then you have all the mannerisms that come with it, right? Like, I remember when we were younger, like J-pop and Japanese culture was like super popular. And then people start to like that.
Yeah.
You take on the culture, right? Maybe one day someone will embody our culture. Like they'll be like, walao eh.
Yeah.
Which I love, by the way. I love the word walao eh.
Say so much in such a short phrase,
Yeah.
right? Like, now, if you could just share one message, right, for people navigating their journey, like they want to try, like, for example, they could be educated in a different industry. They're engineers, for example, but they want to become a content creator. They want to be an actor, or they simply just want to do something other than what they're expected to do.
Right.
So what advice or message would you have for someone trying to find themselves?
It's easier said than done. And I recognize that. The only reason I would never hesitate if I feel passionate about something to dive right into it head on is because I've had practice. But we have to start somewhere. And if this is the point that you are at in your life that you want to try, you're finally ready to try, I recommend following your heart, as cliche as that sounds. Because my dad always told me to do what you love. Because then you'll love every minute of the journey.
No matter how hard it is. Yeah. You'll find a way through it.
Yeah, I romanticize this a lot. So only do what you love, was what my dad said.
Yeah, I agree with that, because when we do what we love, we don't necessarily always end up doing what we love. And that's because sometimes we're forced to do things that we don't
of course.
love.
But like I said, if you're at this point in your life where you feel like I hope you let your gut lead you, because you've always let your head lead you, right? Why don't you try something different? Just let your gut lead you. Find how you can fulfill your purpose with all the other tools that are available to us right now. Like, think about that.
Right.
How that can add to you pursuing your dreams rather than how you push aside your dreams to fulfill, I don't know, what you want what you have to do, right? Why don't we do something for ourselves?
Break the rules.
Yeah, for a change.
Every now and then.
Yeah, and if you can't enable yourself, come and follow me. I'll enable you 100%. Yeah, and the support of the community as well. I honestly believe that my following is very supportive. And if you need support, they are there to like your comment, to tell you, just keep going. No, it really is what I've been building for the last year and a half. And I'm now seeing the fruits of it.
And I think we are very happy to be a part of, hopefully, this community as well.
Yes, join,
Yes.
Cait of all trades. But
Yes.
thank you so much also for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. And thank you, House Kakis, for watching this episode. And remember, for every question you have, there's a guest there with the answers. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, please share this episode. Leave your suggestions as to who our next guest might be. And of course, follow us on our socials. Until next time, see you.